My wife lost her memory 4 years ago. Last Tuesday, I took her to see a neurologist in Greenville, South Carolina. When our daughter stepped out to take a call, the doctor's hands trembled as he leaned forward and whispered urgently, "You need to get your wife away from your daughter immediately." Before he could explain why, Lauren returned, clutching her designer purse with white knuckles and wearing that same concerned smile she had worn for months. "I would truly appreciate it if you stayed until the end, because that doctor's trembling warning would change our lives forever. If you're watching this story, please subscribe to the channel, like button, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I'm Cairo Thompson, 68, a retired structural engineer. My wife Evelyn is 65, a former second-grade teacher who used to light up every room she walked into. These days, she sometimes can't remember my name. Some mornings she wakes up and looks at me like I'm a kind stranger. The decline started gradually: forgotten glasses, repeated stories, little things I told myself were normal aging. But then came the morning she couldn't remember her famous peach cobbler recipe, perfected over 40 years. That's when I knew something was terribly wrong. Lauren insisted we see specialists. She drove up from Atlanta every weekend, her heels clicking across our hardwood floors on Lake Kiowa. Expensive perfume filling rooms that usually smelled of coffee and Evelyn's lavender soap. She had become Evelyn's primary caregiver by default, because as a consulting engineer I still traveled for projects. When Evelyn worsened, Lauren stepped in seamlessly, but there was something in her eyes I couldn't place. A calculating look when she thought no one was watching. She would photograph our antique furniture, ask about property deeds, wonder aloud about updating our will. "Dad, you and Mom are getting older," she'd say. "We need to be practical. Power of attorney. What happens if you can't make decisions?" I always changed the subject. Those conversations made my skin crawl. "Doctor." Harrison was younger than expected, maybe 52, with wire-rimmed glasses and nervous hands. He had been highly recommended, supposedly one of the best neurologists in upstate South Carolina. He examined Evelyn with us present memory tests, coordination checks, questions she answered with increasing confusion. "What year is it?" "Mrs. Thompson, 2020. Who's the president?" She guessed wrong. My throat tightened. It was 2025. "Doctor," Harrison made urgent notes, hands trembling. "Mr. Thompson, I'd like additional tests. This memory loss is progressing faster than typical decline." He glanced at Lauren. "I need to review her complete medication history. Drug interactions can accelerate cognitive symptoms," Lauren said lightly. "Mom barely takes anything, just blood pressure pills and vitamins." "Who manages her medications, doctor?" Harrison asked. I answered. "Lauren does. She organizes Mom's weekly pill case. She's been incredibly helpful." Something flickered across his face. Alarm, before I could read it. Lauren stood abruptly. "Sorry, I need to take this call," she said, glancing at a phone that had never rung, and walked out. The moment the door closed, "Doctor." Harrison's demeanor changed completely. He leaned forward, knuckles white against his desk. "Mr. Thompson," he whispered urgently, "you need to get your wife away from your daughter immediately." My heart raced. "What are you talking about?" "The medication records, the decline pattern, the timeline. I've seen this before. Certain substances can induce symptoms identical to dementia. They cause genuine memory loss, but the effects can be reversible if caught early." The room spun. "What are you saying?" "Your wife might not have dementia at all. She might be." The door opened again. Lauren stood there, eyes sharp, moving between us. Sorry that took so long, she said smoothly. Is everything all right, doctor? The drive home felt longer than usual. I kept glancing at Lauren in the passenger seat. Doctor. Harrison's whisper echoed in my mind. She sat rigid, fingers drumming against her leather purse, checking her phone every few minutes with nervous energy I had never seen before. Everything okay? Sweetheart, I asked, trying to sound casual. Just work stuff. Dad. She laughed, but it sounded forced, brittle. Back at our house on Lake Kiowa, Lauren immediately went to the kitchen, where she kept Evelyn's medications organized in a weekly pill dispenser. I watched from the doorway as she methodically sorted tablets into tiny compartments, her movements precise and practiced. Mom, time for your evening pills, she called out sweetly. Evelyn shuffled in wearing her favorite rose cardigan, the one she'd owned for 18 years, and took the pills without question. Trusting as a child, the sight made my stomach turn for reasons I still couldn't name. I think I'll make some tea, Lauren announced. Dad, why don't you help Mom get settled in the living room, as I guided Evelyn to her recliner. Fragments of the past 4 years began reassembling in my mind like a horrifying puzzle. Before her decline, Lauren visited maybe once a month, usually holidays or birthdays. But as Evelyn worsened, those visits became weekly, then twice weekly. I had been grateful then. What loving daughter wouldn't want to spend more time with her ailing mother? Now I remembered other details. How Lauren always insisted on handling Evelyn's medications. How she grew defensive when I suggested trying a different doctor. How she pushed for me to travel more, taking longer consulting contracts. Dad's expertise is in such demand. She'd tell people, Mom and I manage just fine while he's away. The financial troubles had started around the same time. Lauren's messy divorce from Ryan had dragged on for 20 months, bleeding her savings dry. Her ex-husband's lawyer had been ruthless, claiming she hid assets. The settlement left her with crushing debt. $220,000 she had confided in me last Christmas. Tears streaming down her face. I don't know how I'll ever dig out of this hole, Dad. The creditors call constantly. I had offered help then, but she refused. I'm a grown woman. I'll figure it out. Now, watching her move through our kitchen with practiced familiarity, I wondered exactly how she had planned to figure it out. I'm going to take a quick shower, Lauren announced after settling Evelyn with her tea. That hospital smell just clings to everything. The moment I heard water running upstairs, something compelled me toward her purse. It sat on the kitchen counter. Expensive Italian leather that cost more than she could afford right now. My hands shook as I opened the clasp. I had never violated my daughter's privacy before. Never had reason to doubt her. Inside were the usual items: wallet, keys, lipstick, breath mints, but tucked into a side compartment, wrapped in a silk scarf, was a small amber prescription bottle. The label had been partially torn off, but I could still make out the drug name and the words that made my blood run cold: diazepam. Veterinary use only. The shower was still running upstairs. Evelyn sat peacefully in the living room, humming an old song she used to sing to our children. And in my trembling hands was proof that the daughter I raised, the little girl who used to braid dandelions into crowns, had been systematically poisoning her own mother. What kind of monster drugs their own mother for years? The next morning found me at the Greenville County Library before they even opened, pacing like a man possessed. Sleep had been impossible. That amber bottle haunted me. Emily Carter, the young librarian with purple streaks in her hair, unlocked the doors at 9 sharp. She had helped with my engineering research before. Mr. Thompson, working on another project. I need to research a medication, diazepam, veterinary grade. Her eyebrows shot up, but she didn't ask questions. Within 20 minutes, we had pulled up medical journals and pharmaceutical databases. What I learned made my hands shake. Diazepam is an animal sedative for anxious pets, in humans, especially the elderly. It causes drowsiness, confusion, memory loss, and with prolonged use, symptoms virtually indistinguishable from dementia. The effects are dose-dependent and crucially reversible if discontinued. This says prolonged use can cause permanent damage. Emily noted quietly. Are you researching this for someone specific? Someone very close to me. Every symptom matched Evelyn perfectly, the gradual onset, the increasing confusion, the lost pieces of herself over 4 years. Not Alzheimer's. Systematic poisoning. How long for recovery if someone stopped taking this? This study shows cognitive improvement within 24 to 48 hours, significant recovery over weeks. I printed everything and drove home with a plan. If Evelyn was being drugged, stopping the medication would prove it. Back home, Evelyn sat staring blankly at an incomplete crossword. Lauren had returned to Atlanta and wouldn't be back until Saturday to refill the pill organizer. I had 4 days. That afternoon, I examined Evelyn's pills, 7 compartments, each with 5 tablets. I recognized the legitimate prescription's blood pressure, cholesterol, but 2 others were unfamiliar. Small white tablets, not from any prescription I had authorized. Using my workshop magnifying glass, I found tiny markings, DZ10 diazepam 10 milligrams. I replaced them with similar-looking vitamins, heart pounding like I was defusing a bomb. Before dinner, I visited Frank Miller next door. Frank is 75, a retired Greenville PD detective with sharp instincts. Frank, hypothetically, if someone discovered a family member poisoning another, what's the smartest approach? Frank studied me carefully. Hypothetically, get proof first, document everything, and be very careful. People who poison don't usually stop at one victim when threatened. That evening, Evelyn took her modified pills without question. I watched for changes, praying my theory was correct. 24 hours later, I was reading when Evelyn appeared in the doorway, more alert than I had seen her in years. She held the crossword puzzle, several clues completed in her familiar handwriting. Cairo, she said, and something in her voice made me look up. Her eyes were clearer, more focused. Why do I feel so sharp today? 48 hours without the hidden medication transformed my wife. Not because she had changed, but because I was finally seeing the real Evelyn after 4 years of watching her fade. Thursday morning, she was up before me, something that hadn't happened since her decline began. I found her cooking breakfast, humming an old Carole King song. The smell of bacon filled the air. Morning, sweetheart, she said, turning with a smile that reached her eyes. I thought I'd make your favorite. Remember how you said my scrambled eggs were better than any restaurant? I did remember. More importantly, she remembered. How are you feeling today? She paused, considering seriously. Different. Like I've been walking through fog and suddenly the sun came out. She looked concerned. Cairo, something's been wrong with me, hasn't it? Really wrong. I sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we had shared thousands of meals over 45 years. How could I tell her our daughter had been poisoning her? What do you remember about the last few years? Pieces, fragments, like trying to remember a dream. She served eggs confidently. I remember feeling lost, constantly scared, like I was disappearing bit by bit. Her voice broke. I remember you looking at me with such sadness. The woman across from me was my Evelyn, the teacher who helped hundreds of children learn to read. She had been there all along, trapped behind a chemical fog. I kept trying to tell you something was wrong, but the words wouldn't come right. I'd forget mid-sentence. She took my hand. I felt like I was drowning. Cairo, sinking deeper every day, unable to call for help. My throat tightened. You're not drowning anymore. No, I'm not. But how did I get better so suddenly? What changed? A car pulled into our driveway. Lauren's white Mercedes. She wasn't supposed to be here until Saturday. That's strange, Evelyn said. Lauren's early. I watched our daughter get out. Moving with purpose, she had her key and would let herself in, as always. In seconds, she would see Evelyn alert and coherent. Evelyn, listen carefully, I said urgently. I need you to act like you've been acting for 4 years. Confused. Forgetful. Can you do that? What? Why would I? The front door opened. Heels clicked across hardwood. Mom! Dad! I brought lunch from that deli you like. Lauren appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene, the cooked breakfast. Evelyn sitting upright and alert. The intelligent awareness that had been absent for years. Dad, Lauren said slowly, voice carefully controlled. Mom seems different today. I could see the wheels turning as she processed what she was seeing, her mother alert and coherent for the first time in 4 years, sitting at a breakfast table with evidence of independent cooking scattered around. You look wonderful. Mom, Lauren said carefully, setting down the paper bag, but you must be tired from all this activity. Why don't you take your morning medication and rest? She moved toward the kitchen counter where Evelyn's pill organizer sat. But I was faster. She doesn't need those pills. Lauren's hand froze halfway to the dispenser. Dad, Mom needs her medication. You know that. Doctor, Harrison specifically said. What medication? Lauren, I stood between her and the pills. Describe exactly what you've been giving your mother. Something shifted in her expression. The concerned daughter mask slipped just slightly. Her prescriptions. Blood pressure, cholesterol. The supplements for her memory. Memory supplements, I repeated, and pulled the amber bottle from my pocket, the one I had found in her purse. The color drained from Lauren's face as she recognized the veterinary diazepam. For a moment, the only sound was Evelyn's sharp intake of breath as she read the label. Where did you get that? Lauren's voice was barely a whisper. From your purse. The same purse you clutched like a lifeline at Dr. Harrison's office. I held up the bottle. Diazepam. Veterinary use only. Want to explain why you're carrying animal tranquilizers? Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been drugging your mother for 4 years, systematically poisoning her to make her seem incompetent, while you positioned yourself as the devoted caregiver. Lauren's composure cracked completely. Tears streamed down her face as she sank into a kitchen chair. I never meant for it to go this far. It started small, just to slow her down a little, make her more manageable while you were traveling. Manageable. Evelyn's voice was horrified. I'm your mother, not a pet. I was drowning. Lauren's voice rose to near hysteria. The divorce, the legal fees. Ryan cleaned out our accounts and left me with nothing. $220,000 in debt. Creditors threatening to garnish my wages. Take my condo. She looked between us desperately. I saw how much this house was worth, how much you had saved. I thought if Mom needed more care, if she had to go into a facility, maybe we could work something out with the finances, just temporarily until I got back on my feet. So you decided to create the need for that care, I said. disgust thick in my voice. I researched it carefully. Small doses. Nothing that would really hurt her. Just enough to make her seem confused, forgetful. She was sobbing now, but it got worse, and I couldn't stop. Every time I tried to reduce the dose, you'd notice she was better and I'd panic. You destroyed 4 years of her life. 4 years of our marriage. I never meant to hurt her this much. I love Mom. I love both of you. No, you don't. My voice was ice. You love our money. You love what we could give you. Lauren wiped her eyes, and I saw calculation return to her expression. Dad, look at yourself. You're paranoid, making wild accusations. Maybe the stress of caring for Mom has affected your judgment too. Maybe you both need professional help. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a folder of legal documents. I've already spoken with attorneys about guardianship options for both of you. The courts take elder abuse very seriously, especially when family members make unfounded accusations against their caregivers. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. She had already planned for this contingency, prepared to paint me as an unstable elderly man making delusional accusations against his devoted daughter. Get out of my house, I roared, louder than I had raised my voice in 30 years. You are not welcome here anymore. You don't have keys. You don't have permission. And if you set foot on this property again without explicit consent, I will have you arrested for trespassing. Lauren gathered her things with shaking hands. At the doorway, she turned back one last time. This isn't over. I'm still your daughter, and Mom is still my mother. A judge will see that I'm the only one trying to help. The door slammed behind her, leaving Evelyn and me alone in the wreckage of our family. The morning after Lauren's threats, I sat in the law office of Thornton and Blackthorne in downtown Greenville, clutching evidence that could destroy my daughter's life. Attorney Michael Thornton was everything Frank had promised: sharp, experienced, unafraid of family drama. Mr. Thompson. This constitutes serious felony charges: elder abuse, fraud, potentially attempted murder. But we need ironclad evidence. What kind of medical proof your wife was systematically drugged? Documentation of financial motive. Expert testimony. We need to prove this was deliberate and ongoing. That afternoon, Evelyn and I sat at Prisma Health Greenville Memorial while technicians drew blood for comprehensive toxicology screening. Results within 24 hours. They explained. Doctor. Harrison met us the next morning. Expression grave. Mrs. Thompson. Your blood shows significant diazepam levels consistent with regular dosing over years. The concentration suggests approximately 10 milligrams daily for many months. He turned to me. This confirms systematic poisoning. The dosage was calculated to cause cognitive impairment without obvious overdose symptoms. Quite sophisticated in its cruelty. Can you document this? Absolutely. I'll prepare a detailed medical report confirming Mrs. Thompson was deliberately drugged to simulate dementia. My phone buzzed. Mason Landing, Greenville, Spartanburg, 3 p.m. What the hell is going on? I had called my son the night before and finally revealed the truth. The silence had stretched nearly a minute before he whispered, I'll be on the first flight. Mason arrived looking like he had aged overnight. At 37, he was usually California tanned health and optimism. Today, he looked haunted. Dad, please tell me this is a mistake. Lauren didn't actually poison Mom. I handed him the medical reports, the veterinary bottle, the library research. He read everything twice. Growing paler. Jesus Christ. She's been slowly killing Mom for 4 years. He looked at Evelyn. Mom, remember me visiting last Christmas? You barely recognized me. I thought you were just getting old. I remember pieces, Evelyn said softly, like looking through thick glass. I knew I should recognize you, but couldn't reach the memory. Mason broke down sobbing like the little boy who used to run to his mother with scraped knees. I should have questioned why she deteriorated so fast. Detective Sarah Reynolds arrived at 6 with 2 officers. She had reviewed everything: medical reports, veterinary medication, doctor, Harrison's testimony, Lauren's financial records. Mr. Thompson, we have enough for elder abuse, fraud, and reckless endangerment charges. The DA is considering attempted murder depending on case development. My heart hammered. What happens now? We need formal statements from you and Mrs. Thompson. Doctor, Harrison will provide expert testimony. With this evidence, we can obtain an arrest warrant immediately. I thought about the little girl on my shoulders at county fairs, who cried when she stepped on butterflies, who hugged me tight every bedtime. She's still my daughter. Frank Miller placed a firm hand on my shoulder. Cairo, you're not destroying your daughter. You're protecting your wife. Sometimes that's what love requires. Detective Reynolds closed her notepad. The warrant has been issued. We'll arrest her tomorrow morning. Friday morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Evelyn was in the garden tending her roses with steady hands for the first time in years. I was reading the newspaper when I heard the familiar sound of Lauren's Mercedes pulling into our driveway. She walked up to the front door with her usual confident stride, designer purse slung over her shoulder, carrying a bag from the pharmacy. Everything about her suggested she believed yesterday's confrontation had been successfully managed, that her threats had intimidated me into silence. "Morning. Dad," she called through the screen door. I brought Mom's new prescription. The doctor said it might help with her recent confusion. I didn't answer. Through the window, I could see 2 unmarked police cars parked discreetly down the street, waiting for my signal. Lauren let herself in with her key, moving toward the kitchen where she always prepared Evelyn's medications. "Where's Mom? She should take these right away." "She's outside," I said quietly. Something in my tone made her pause. She looked at me more carefully, taking in my rigid posture. "Dad, you seem tense. Are you feeling all right?" Before I could respond, there was a firm knock at the front door. Detective Reynolds' voice carried through the wood, Greenville County Sheriff's Office. The color drained from Lauren's face as reality hit her. The pharmacy bag slipped from her fingers, pills scattering across our hardwood floor. "No," she whispered. "Dad, you didn't." I opened the door to let Detective Reynolds and Officer Daniels inside. They moved with professional efficiency, but their expressions were grim. "Lauren Thompson," Detective Reynolds said formally, "you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, and reckless endangerment in connection with the systematic drugging of Evelyn Thompson. You have the right to remain silent." Officer Daniels continued producing handcuffs. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Lauren's composure shattered completely. She fell to her knees on our living room floor, sobbing with desperation I had never seen from her. "Daddy, please," she begged, using the name she hadn't called me since childhood. "Please don't let them take me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far." The sound of her childhood nickname cut through me like a blade. This was my little girl, the one who insisted on wearing princess dresses to the grocery store, who made me tea parties with imaginary friends. Evelyn appeared in the doorway from the garden, dirt still on her gardening gloves, taking in the scene with growing horror. "That's my baby girl," she whispered, moving toward Lauren instinctively despite everything. "Ma'am, please step back," Officer Daniels said gently but firmly as he helped Lauren to her feet and secured the handcuffs. Mason had been waiting in the kitchen, unable to watch but unable to leave. He emerged now, face etched with guilt and grief. "Lauren, I'm sorry," he said. "I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected Mom sooner. This isn't your fault. Mason." Lauren managed through tears. "It's mine. All of it." As they led her toward the door, she turned back one last time. "Mom, I love you. I know you can't forgive me, but I love you." Evelyn was crying now, torn between the daughter she raised and the woman who stole 4 years of her life. The neighbors had gathered on their porches, drawn by the police cars. Mrs. Henderson from across the street stood with her hand over her mouth in shock. I watched through the window as they helped Lauren into the back of the patrol car. Her designer clothes and perfect makeup a stark contrast to the handcuffs and tears. The little girl who once caught fireflies in mason jars was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. "I've lost my daughter to save my wife," I said aloud, the words tasting like ash. Frank Miller appeared at my side, having witnessed everything from his porch. "You did what you had to do, Cairo. Sometimes protecting the people we love means making impossible choices." Detective Reynolds handed me a business card before leaving. "The trial is scheduled for next month. Mr. Thompson, we'll need you and Mrs. Thompson to testify." The Greenville County Courthouse buzzed with quiet tension on a gray October morning. I sat in the front row beside Evelyn, both of us dressed in our Sunday best, watching our daughter enter the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit that made her look younger and more vulnerable than her 39 years. Lauren's attorney, David Rothschild, was everything I expected from someone charging $600 an hour expensive suit, silver hair, and the confidence that comes with winning cases that should have been lost. He had flown in from Charlotte specifically for this trial, hired with money Lauren somehow still had access to. Michael Thornton sat at the prosecutor's table, our evidence organized in neat folders. Over the past month, he had become more than our lawyer. He had become our advocate. Someone who understood this case was about more than legal precedent. "The state will prove," Thornton began in his opening statement, "that Lauren Thompson systematically poisoned her mother over a period of 4 years using veterinary-grade sedatives to simulate dementia while positioning herself to inherit the family's substantial assets." He held up the amber bottle that started everything. This medication, designed for anxious animals, was administered daily to Evelyn Thompson, causing memory loss, confusion, and 4 years of stolen life. Dr. Harrison took the witness stand with the gravity of someone who understood his role in this tragedy. The blood work conclusively shows diazepam levels consistent with regular, deliberate dosing. This wasn't accidental or medicinal. This was systematic poisoning designed to incapacitate. In your professional opinion, Dr. Harrison, was this attempted murder? It was attempted destruction of a human mind. Whether the defendant intended death or just control, the result was the same: the deliberate erasure of Evelyn Thompson's cognitive abilities. David Rothschild's cross-examination was aggressive but futile. The evidence was overwhelming: the medication bottle with Lauren's fingerprints, the blood tests, the financial records showing her crushing debt, and most damning of all, the dramatic improvement in Evelyn's condition once the drugging stopped. When it came time for Lauren to speak, she surprised everyone by standing without prompting. "Your Honor, I want to change my plea to guilty." Rothschild grabbed her arm, whispering urgently, but she shook him off. "I did everything they said I did. I drugged my mother for 4 years because I was desperate and selfish and thought I could get away with it." Her voice cracked. "I told myself I was just making her more manageable. But I knew what I was really doing. I was stealing her mind to save my financial situation. She turned toward our section of the courtroom, tears streaming down her face. Mom, I'm sorry. I know those words don't mean anything after what I've done. But I need you to know I never stopped loving you, even when I was hurting you. Dad, I'm sorry for destroying our family. I'm sorry for making you choose between your wife and your daughter. Judge Margaret Ellison, a stern woman in her 60s who had seen every kind of family destruction imaginable, showed no emotion as she delivered the sentence. Lauren Thompson, you have committed one of the most heinous betrayals of trust I've encountered in 25 years on this bench. You systematically poisoned your own mother, stole 4 years of her life, and nearly destroyed her marriage and mental health for financial gain. She paused, letting the weight settle over the courtroom. Accordingly, I sentence you to 9 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will also pay full restitution for medical expenses, legal fees, and damages to your parents. The gavel's bang echoed through the silent courtroom like a gunshot. Evelyn broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. She's still my baby girl, she whispered over and over. I wrapped my arms around my wife, feeling the weight of everything we had lost and everything we had saved. Justice has been served, I murmured into her hair. But the cost was too damn high. As they led Lauren away in shackles, she looked back one final time. Our eyes met across the courtroom, and for just a moment, I saw the little girl who used to fall asleep in my lap during bedtime stories. Then she was gone. 7 months later, spring arrived early on Lake Kiowee, bringing renewal that mirrored our own journey back to wholeness. I found Evelyn in our garden tending roses she had stared at blankly for 4 years, now pruning with remembered expertise. The soil's perfect this year, she said, eyes sparkling with the intelligence I fell in love with 45 years ago. We'll have the best blooms ever. The transformation still amazed me daily. Her memory had returned almost completely, her spirit restored. She was volunteering again at the literacy center, finding purpose in teaching children to read. I had retired completely after the trial, turning down contracts that would take me away. At 68, I had learned no bridge was more important than the woman beside me at breakfast. I lost 4 years with you. I told her one evening, I'm not losing another day. Mason had relocated from Denver to Charlotte, just 2 hours away. Guilt over missing the signs had transformed him into the son we always hoped he would become. He visited every weekend now. The warning signs were there, he said. I chose not to see them. Son, your sister fooled everyone. The important thing is, we stopped her. We had visited Lauren twice at the South Carolina Women's Correctional Facility. She looked smaller in the prison uniform, worn down by her choices. I dream about Mom's face when they put the handcuffs on. She said, I'll carry that image forever. Evelyn had reached across the table. I forgive you, Lauren. I don't understand what you did, and I'll never forget it. But I forgive you because you're still my child. That was 4 months ago. We hadn't returned since. Frank Miller continued being our rock, stopping by most evenings to share a beer and wisdom. The tragedy isn't that we trusted Lauren, he observed. The tragedy is she chose to exploit that trust instead of honoring it. I had started speaking at community centers and churches about elder abuse warning signs. The response was overwhelming. Dozens shared similar concerns, asking for advice. Sometimes the greatest danger comes from those we love most, I tell audiences. Not because love is dangerous, but because it makes us want to believe the best about people, even when evidence suggests otherwise. The house felt lighter now. Evelyn's laughter filled rooms that had been silent too long. Our marriage, tested by 4 years of confusion, had emerged stronger than ever. "We're survivors," Evelyn said one night, reading about a similar case in Tennessee. "Maybe our purpose is helping other families recognize what we missed." As I sit here writing this, in the same spot where I first held that amber medication bottle, I'm struck by how much can change when we choose to see the truth. Our family will never be the same. We will always carry the betrayal scars and grief over losing a daughter to her choices. But we are alive. We are together, and we are using our pain to protect others. Sometimes that has to be enough. Looking back at this true story, I realize how blind trust nearly destroyed everything I held dear. Don't be like me. Don't ignore the warning signs when someone you love starts changing for no reason. I trusted completely because Lauren was my daughter. But God teaches us to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. The hardest lesson isn't about recognizing poison in pill bottles. It's about recognizing when love becomes manipulation, when care becomes control. I spent 4 years watching my wife disappear, telling myself it was natural aging, when every instinct screamed something was wrong. God gave me that moment with Dr. Harrison for a reason. His whispered warning through a trembling physician who risked everything to tell the truth. But I almost missed it, because I couldn't imagine my own child capable of such betrayal. Don't make my mistake. When medications multiply without explanation, when someone insists on controlling all medical decisions, when a family member suddenly becomes indispensable while others are pushed away, pay attention. These aren't coincidences. They are red flags written in invisible ink. This true story taught me that protecting our loved ones sometimes means protecting them from family. God doesn't promise easy choices, only the strength to make necessary ones. I nearly lost Evelyn forever because I loved Lauren too much to see her clearly. Trust, but verify. Love, but stay vigilant. And remember, the greatest betrayals often come wrapped in the language of care. Our true story proves that even in the darkest family betrayals, justice can prevail and love can survive, though forever changed. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting someone you love? Your story might save another family from walking this painful path. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments.